right, so let's go and take a look at this question right here. It's still going to be on ratios. And for this question, it is asking you about write a proportion to solve each problem, write a relationship first, use equivalent fractions, unit rates, scale factors, a double number line, a tape diagram, or a ratio table to prove the problem. Did your teacher go over a double number line or a tape diagram with you? No. Okay. A photographer can print 12 copies in 48 seconds. At this rate, how many copies can it print in 1 minute? Hold on a second. It's not connecting. Hold on. Okay, so a photocopier can print 12 copies in 48 seconds. So your equivalent fraction and also your ratio relationship is going to look like this. So it's going to be printed copies on top over time in seconds, right? Yeah. Which is equal to 12 copies on top, 48 seconds on the bottom, okay? Now the question asks you, it's saying that at this rate, how many copies? So how many copies, that's going to be X, can it print in 1 minute? Now for the 1 minute, that's going to be part of your equivalent fraction, equal fraction right here, okay? So 1 minute equals how many seconds? No, 1 minute equals how many seconds? How many seconds are there in a minute? So equals, X goes on top. X is how many copies in 60 seconds. Do you see that? Stop moving that around. So then we're going to go ahead and cross multiply. So 12 or 48x equals, what is 12 times 60? What's 12 times 6? Nope. 72. 720, because you have to put a 0 there, right? Divided by 48 on both sides. Now you divide that. 720 divided by 48. Okay, so it's going to give you 15, okay? And also, I think it's important that you make sense of this. The other thing that they wrote here is that it says use a ratio table. So if I were to use a ratio table here, okay? And let's say, for example, I'm just going to insert a table like this. So the first part of my ratio table in this one is just going to be copies, right? This one is going to be time in seconds, okay? And it's important to do this so that way you can make sense of something. You know it's given to you that there are 12 copies is proportionate to 48 seconds, right? Your answer is 15 copies is in 60 seconds. Does that seem like it makes sense to you? It does make sense. And the reason it makes sense is because if it's 12 copies in 48 seconds, 60 seconds is bigger than 48. So this number has to be bigger than 12, right? So that makes sense. It's good. Okay, you just make a table to make sense of it. Now, for example, if I went ahead and said, okay, if I do 30 seconds, and in 30 seconds I made 13 copies, would that make sense? No, because 48 seconds you made 12, in 30 seconds it should be less than 12, so that wouldn't make sense. Okay, so you want to make a table right there so that way it makes sense. Okay, and then also another way of thinking about this, Grayson, is if you think about it, okay, so here's copies and here is time, right? So copy, or actually I should put time on the bottom, over time. So I have 12 over 48, right? Equals 15 over 60, right? I should have the same ratio, right? 12 divided by 48. I can divide top and bottom by 12, which will give me 1 over 4. Do you see that? Okay. Over here, if I divide 15 and I divide 15 top and bottom, it also gives me 1 over 4. So it has the same ratio. And that's why I know the answer is correct, because it has the same ratio. Okay. All right, question number 2, read it, please.
Is the cost of cementing 30 square meters of floor area is 800. How much will it cost?
Okay, so let's go ahead and underline the important information. Cost is the first one. Cementing cost is $810 for 30 square meters, right? So we're going to do cost in dollars over cementing square meters, right? And that is equal to cost is 810, 30, right? Equals. The second part here is we're going to find the question where you have to answer. How much would it cost? So how much would it cost? So that's going to be X, right? Because that's the question. To cement 55 square meters of floor area. So in this case, there's actually, it's easier. There's no conversion. Because remember before we did like seconds to minutes to seconds, right? This one, it's not doing anything different than square meters. It's not asking for like square centimeters or kilometers or, you know, like decameters. It's the same thing, right? So you just put 55 here. If you have to make a guess, okay, if 30 equals 810, right? 55 is very close to doubling 30, right? Doubling 30 is 60, right? So then what is a good estimate for the cost if you have to double 810? If you double $800, what would that be? Yeah, so your answer should be around 1600, right? So my answer is going to be about, and this means estimate 1600. So let's go and cross multiply and see what the actual answer is. So when I go ahead and multiply this, I'm going to get 30x equals, you have to do 810 times 55 on the side. So make sure you do that. What did you get? Okay, so 44,550, right? Now divide it by 30. So divide that. What did you get? Did you get the answer yet for how much it's going to cost for 55 meters or square meters? What was your answer? Yeah, and didn't we say that it was supposed to be an estimate of $1,600? That's pretty close, right? So that's good. All right, so let's go on to the next one. Number 3, go ahead and read it, please. Read number 3, please. So recipe for a cake calls for half a stick of butter and 2 eggs. Grandma distracted and beat in 1 stick of butter and 3 eggs. What should he do now to fix the proportion of the ingredients? How many cake will he end up making? Okay, so 1 cake. So here's your cake, right? 1 cake means you need to have half a stick of butter, right? And 2 eggs, right? Well, when you're making your cake, so we don't know how much of a cake it is, Greg put 1 stick of butter and 3 eggs, right? Well, how much more butter did he put from 1/2? Yeah, so this is twice as much butter, right? So if 1/2 times 2 gives me 1, right? Because do you agree that 1/2 times 2 is 1? It's double of 1/2. Okay, then we need to double the eggs. So if I double the egg by times it by 2, what is 2 times 2? So what do? We need to add 1 more what? 1 more egg. So when it says, what should he do? What do you think he should do? Yeah. So then how much cake will he make? No, 1 cake is half a butter. Okay. Using ones. We'll make 2 cakes. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's good that you're getting this. All right, the last one, question number 4. So Rosa's pet reindeer eats so much that she has to buy reindeer food in bulk, okay? So this is what's given to you. 5-pound costs $17.50. How much would 30-pound cost? So the question is how much? How much is in money? So that's X, 30 pounds, right? And that's the first part. Then you have a part B, which is how much is 33-pound cost. So then what we're going to do is we're going to start off with your ratio relationship, right? The first one is price of reindeer food. And I spell reindeer with an A instead of an E. That's on top, right? What do you think the bottom's going to be? Pounds, right? Is equal to, the first one is 5 pounds is this much. So the price is $17.50 for 5 pounds, right? Equals, how much would it cost? So how much is X? So X goes on top for 30 pounds, like that. Cross multiply, 5X equals, you want to do this on the side, what's 1750 times 30? Two to the right, which means you go 2 to the left. So it's actually $525. 525. It's very cute. I love it. Just like you, cutie pie. All right, then we have to divide it, right? So then I want you to divide it, Grayson. So go ahead and divide it. it should be $105, okay? So if we were to just like check to see if this makes sense, okay. So 5 pounds is about, it's gonna be exactly $17, but if I have to round it, I would say it's $20, right? Okay. If I want 30 pounds, how do you get from 5 to 30? How much more is that? Is it twice as much, 3 times as much, 4 times as much from 5 to 30? 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 6 is 30, right? So let's do 30 right here on the left side, right there, right? So then if I times this by 6, what's 20 times 6? 20 times 6 is 120, right? 105 is pretty close to that, right? And it's smaller than that because remember how we went ahead and rounded up the $17.50 to 20? So we rounded up. So this number should be bigger, right? So is it a reasonable cost? It's a reasonable cost. You probably got the answer right. Does that make sense? Okay, so then last one, let's see what happens is how much would 33 pound cost? All right, so if you have 33 pounds, well, 5 times 6 is 30. So what's 33 is just a little bit more than 30, don't you think? So it's 120 for 30 pounds. So mine might, if I have to be bigger, it has maybe 130 pounds, you think? Maybe? I mean, sorry, $130. Okay, so let's check it. So you're going to use the same ratio, right? Whoops. And the ratio is right here. That's your ratio, right? $17.50 over 5 equals 33 goes on the bottom, x goes on top. Yes? Now let's cross multiply. 5x equals on the side. You have to do what's 1750 times 33. If you do this on the side, you should get 0, 15, 21, 22, and then 0, 15, 21, 22. Oh, fine. Add it together. 2 decimals to the left. So you should have, oh, hold on a second. Oh, no, I haven't divided yet. I was like, that doesn't look right. This is what you have, right? But then we have to divide it. So when I divide this, I get 577.50 divided by 5. Now, you got to be careful because you have the decimals right here. So I'm going to move 2 steps over to the right. Do you see that? So I have a 0, 0 right there. Do you see that? So let me move it over a little bit. Let's see if I can. No, I can't. Just kidding. Can't move it over. Okay, so then what we're going to do, I'm going to move this over this way. 500 times 1 is 500. If I subtract that, I get 77 and a 5, right? Put another 1, I get 500, which gives me 275. Bring that 0 down. So then you want to ask yourself, 500 times what is close to 2750? And it's probably 5, right? Which then gives you 250. If I put a dot right there and put another 0 right there, then you put a 5, which gives you 2,500 exactly, and you get a 0. So then your answer here is 115.50. That's how much it will cost. Come on. That's how much it will cost for 33 pounds of reindeer food. Do you see that? So then if I were to go ahead and just summarize this, I will go ahead and, oh, whoops, I can go ahead and just create a table. So the first part of my table on top is going to be pounds of reindeer food. And on the right is cost of food, right? And you start off with the first one. The first one that they give me is pounds of food was 5 pounds Oops, that's correct. 5 pounds is gonna be $17.50, right? Then from the first part that I found, it was 30 pounds of food is going to be 105, right? And then the next one was 33 pounds of food was 115.50. Whoops, what happened here? There we go. And then just make sure to put dollar signs on front of it. There we go. Okay, does that make sense though? Okay. Okay, and that concludes it.